Welcome, everyone. We'll be starting in about 10 minutes. If you have any questions during the presentation, I'm going to take questions at the end. You can leverage the chat option at the bottom of your Zoom screen and type in whatever questions you might have. You also have the option of leveraging the reaction icon at the bottom of your screen. If you click on that, you'll see an option that gives you the opportunity to raise your hand. And I'm more than happy to take all questions at the end of the training. And we'll start in about 8 minutes. If you'd like to share where you're from, or if there's any specific items that you'd like me to cover in the presentation in terms of drones, accessories, drones themselves, software, put it in the chat box as well. I do my best to integrate products and solutions into the presentation to make it more customized for you folks. So we'll be starting in about 8 minutes or so.
Hey, Michael.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
Very good, sir. I'm sorry I missed you at the FDIC. I saw you walking by.
You were a busy man.
That's the closest we've gotten to shaking hands, I'm thinking. Yeah.
No, I came over a couple times. I saw you with end users, and as I always say, you're not there for me, you're there for them. So you take.
Yeah, well, it's good to meet the partners, though. You know.
No worries.
Sure. It was a great show for us. Basically, everybody who never heard of us heard of us. So that's the reason we're there, right?
Well, it was, as I was told from a few different vendors, it was a very quality show. It wasn't the large FDIC that we all know and love in terms of number of attendees. The ones that did come, though, were players. So that was good.
Oh, yeah. I think it was just a good event for sure.
Yeah, I'm just happy the Zoom room worked. I was having some problems with Zoom over the last week and a half. And so I was like, all right, I'm hopping in early. Because if it's not working, we got to pivot real quick and send out a new room number and stuff. But looks like it's working well, which is great.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate everybody joining the group. Looks like we got 10 on. How many?
Close to 80 registered. So it was a good registration. And for those that just joined in, we're going to be starting in about 7 minutes, and then we'll do some housekeeping and roll into the presentation, and we'll be taking questions at the end.
So how long were you at FDIC, Michael?
I was there until Saturday around 11 is when I left.
Okay.
It was, I would have left on Friday, but I had a couple meetings on Saturday. So, so I made sure I was there for those and then headed back to Chicago. So it's not too bad. It's a 3.5 hour drive.
Oh, good for you.
I was with.
Yeah, I had a scary moment. I packed up all my stuff, got to where the shuttle bus was, picked me. The officer was going to let me leave my stuff there so I could drive my car back.
Sure.
Get to my car, I got no keys.
Oh no.
Cannot find the keys. It was like not a good thing. Yeah. So I ended up getting a ride back, and thank God the keys were sitting right there at the booth where I had left them, and nobody had picked them up and dropped them at Lost and Found, because that would have been a whole nother problem.
Would have been a couple more days.
Well, it was a rent-a-car, so I think it was $250 just to get the keys replaced right off the get-go, and then I would have missed my flight. It would have been a bad thing. So, a lot to be said for putting your head on straight.
That's one of the things I do like about FDIC is I leave my keys at wherever I'm staying. It's the odds of me losing them go down considerably when they're nice and safely in a room or an Airbnb. That's I did an Airbnb this time, which was nice.
Yeah.
All right, let me just take care of one thing here. I will be completely ready to roll.
question for you, Michael, is the graphic behind me like reversed, or is it readable?
No, it's readable.
Okay, because sometimes to me it's readable, but to everybody else it's reversed. I'm not quite sure what causes that phenomenon, but it's a little embarrassing.
No, no worries. In fact, now send that to me when you have time, and I will use that background going forward.
Okay, yeah, that'll work. We have a new logo design, minor changes. The board kind of wanted to get something fresh, so I'll send you that as well.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Okay.
Folks will be starting in about 2 minutes. If you have any products or solutions for drones that you would like me to work into my presentation, please use the chat box, and I'll be happy to work those in. And in about a minute or two, we'll do some housekeeping and we will get started. Okay, good afternoon, wherever you're calling in from. My name is Michael Asimore. I'm with a company called Dynamic International. We are a partner of NPS-DDP. We are here today to present to you a course to teach you how to find grant funding so you can either add to your existing drone program or build out a new one from scratch. Before I begin, I'd like to turn it over to Mark Langley and kind of set the table. Then he'll turn it back over to me. We'll do some housekeeping and start into the presentation.
Thank you, Michael. So for those of you who don't know about our organization, the National Public Safety Drone Donation Program was set up because a parent company that I own, which is Airborne Works, saw the need for public safety to benefit from drone technology, whether it be hardware, eyes in the sky, or software. We have some amazing partners that we work with at the National Public Safety Drone Donation Program that work with us and support us through donations. And I want to put it out there on behalf of our board of directors. We can't thank all those who are on board right now or listening to this podcast for your service in public safety. It is so much appreciated. And we're here to help. If you've not applied for a drone through our foundation, it's very easy. Go to NPS-DDP.org. If you have old drones and you're trying to buy new ones and you've got stuff on the shelf and you'd like to recycle it, please contact us, because we have a home for every single drone that you might have. And then also, if you have RFPs going out, not only will Michael be touching on how we can help to get you some money, but when you do have money to spend, go to Airborne Works, because we're going to guarantee best possible pricing, and we're going to help and whatever we sell, we donate 5% of our net back to NPS-DDP. So we're really trying to help support the public safety community. So we're really excited to have Michael Asimore on Dynamic International. And what Michael's going to present here is going to be eye-opening. Every time I sit in on this, what is this, the fourth one, Michael? Fifth? Every time I sit in, I learn something new. So I hope you do as well. And again, we can't thank you enough for your time and dedication, service, and public safety. Michael, it's all yours. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. All right, so real quick housekeeping. One, we're recording the session, and we're going to make that available to all you folks. Once the session's over, I download it, I send it over to Mark, and then Mark's team puts it together and makes it available for everybody. I know we'll have some people coming in as we go through the presentation. We had about almost 80 registered, so I know some people will be coming in as we get started, which is all good. If you can make sure that you are muted, I'd greatly appreciate that, so that way it doesn't interfere with the sound quality for other attendees. If you have any questions, I'm going to take questions at the end of the presentation. So what you can do is at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see a icon or a box that says chat. You click on chat, it'll open a window to the side of your Zoom screen and it'll allow you to put whatever questions you have. You can ask a question for everyone to see, or you could directly just send it to me if you want me just to have the question personally. I'm going to answer all questions that I do receive. And you also have the option of raising your hand, which is at the bottom of the Zoom screen. There's a place called reactions, and you click on that and it'll give you an option to raise your hand as well. So you can ask questions either way, but we'll take questions at the end of the course. With that being said, if there's any slides that you like, you can take an image of them. I don't give out my slides, but that does not mean you can't either do a screen capture or take a picture with your phone. And I'll be happy to go back when I'm answering questions. If there's a slide you'd like me to go back to so you can capture it, happy to do that as well. So let me share my screen. We'll get started here and get this all show on the road. So what we're going to be talking about today is what I call the grant funding assistance strategy. I started this strategy almost 20 years ago. A little background about me. I've been in the industry, it'll be 20 years on September 25th, 2001. I started in this industry 2 weeks after 9/11. My background was unique. I was never in public safety. I was never a cop. I was never a fireman. I was never in the military. Before I entered this industry, I was a headhunter. And I was very used to hitting the phones and making phone calls and doing marketing and looking for ways to find opportunities for companies to hire people. And I left that industry in late 2001, started interviewing for jobs, and I got hired by a local distributor of tactical equipment that was looking for a salesperson. When I was interviewing with them, they asked me a lot of questions about products, guns, body armor, things that I had no idea about. And in fact, I almost stopped them from hiring me. They asked me so many questions that I said no to. I said to them, are you sure you want to even continue interviewing me? Because it doesn't sound like I'm a fit. And if I was a headhunter filling this position, I probably wouldn't send someone like me to the interview. And they said, if you're not afraid to hit the phones, we'll teach you product. And I said, no, I'm not afraid to hit the phones. I was used to making 100 calls a day. So they hired me and I started learning product, and I shadowed the owner of the company for about 6 months. So as I was out with him in the field, my job was to be quiet, take notes, gather information, send literature to the customers, price quotes, T&E samples so they can evaluate, and then follow up. So as I was doing my follow-up, I was learning a lot about the industry, and about 6 months in, I got the chance to go out into the field on my own. So I'd go out in the field on my own. I'd go call on SWAT teams because that was my my customer base. Everything east of the Mississippi was my territory. And within 15 to 30 seconds, they knew I never did their job. They look at me and they go, you've never been a cop. You've never been on SWAT for sure, but you've never been in law enforcement. What brings you out here? Why are you doing this job? So I gave them my background, and when I would sell products, I sold it on features, advantages, and benefits. And I didn't tell them what they needed and why they needed it. I was more of, this is what I have. This is what it does. I give it to them and they'd evaluate it. And then they would tell me they liked it or they didn't. And if they liked it, I'd share that information with different parts of the country. Because if I'm in Illinois hearing stories about equipment, I'll share that with Florida. If I'm hearing information in Florida, I'd share it with Virginia, and so on and so forth. So when I would do my follow-up, though, is when things got really curious to me. So I was doing follow-up before I was out in the field, and then I was doing follow-up after being out in the field. And I kept hearing the same answers. I'd quote the products, I'd quote the solutions. And the question I would ask is, do you like the products? Yes. Does the price make sense? Yes. When do you expect to buy them? And the answer I would get is, I don't know. And I was confused because I didn't understand why they would want me to come out there and show them product if they didn't have the ability to buy it. So I would ask them, what do you mean you don't know? And the answer was, we don't know where we're going to get money because we don't have any budget money. And I said to them, okay, I said, and after hearing this a few times, I finally got smart and I asked the question that puts me in front of you today. The question I asked was, if I can help you find money, would you buy from me? Because at the time I was hearing all about Department of Homeland Security money. I was hearing about $4.2 billion in 2002 from the newly formed DHS funneled down to state and local agencies for preparedness and training. But these end users, the law enforcement officers I was talking to, didn't know how to get money. And so when I asked them if I found the money for them, would they buy from me? They said, yes. I learned real quick, it's a loyal industry. I took my sales from $1 million a year up to $9 million a year in about 4 years, just by focusing on the money. So in 2007, I started my company, Dynamic Protection Solutions International, and I started teaching businesses and end users how to play the grant game, as I call it. And I'm proud to say last year, we taught 1,000 agencies and businesses how to play the grant game. And today we're going to teach you how to play the grant game. And it's a game that is not difficult. It just requires knowing the rules and then being persistent. It's like playing video games with your kids. If you've ever played a video game with your kid, you know your kid slaughters you at the video game more often than not because they know how to do the game. They know the tricks. They know the little nuances. And that's why they win and you don't. Grant funding is very similar. I'm going to teach you today what the successful agencies understand what to do. So that way you can get better at playing the game and you can get the equipment for your drone programs, your software, your accessories, or maybe even the drone themselves, and get it at no cost to your agency. So I mentioned earlier, I started the business in 2007. That's when I coined the phrase grant funding assistance strategy. But simply put, it was created for any state or local municipal government agency that has a need for solutions, but due to funding issues, they can't afford to buy. Because the problem in the market's this: it's not quality of product. It's not the availability of product. It's the fact that state and local end users have needs and they want solutions. It doesn't matter if it's equipment, software, or training. The business will go out and educate the end users on the solution. The end user commits to buying the solution, but due to budgets, they don't have any money. 90 to 98% of all budget money goes to payroll and gasoline. So there's only 2 to 10% left over. And there's lots of needs at an agency. You have your administrative, your support services, your operations, your patrol, your investigations, your training, your IT. There's needs across the board. And there's just isn't enough budget to make it happen. So you have to figure out ways to get money. Because the end result's this: end users, I find, don't know how or where to find money. And they must continue to perform their duties and responsibilities without the best equipment that saves time, saves money, reduces liability, and saves lives. And it's not because of understanding or knowledge. It's no one taught the game. I mean, I've never met someone that got into public safety to write grants for a living. It just has come with the job. And you wear many hats, you have a lot of responsibilities. So the whole purpose today is to teach you how to play this game so it's not something that you have to throw on your plate and think about. You practice it, you get good at it, and then it just becomes second nature. So what is the grant funding assistance strategy? For an end user, it's simply this. It's a list of available grants federal, private, and state. And we'll dive into those in a couple seconds here for every state. Doesn't matter if you're in New York or Florida, Alaska, Hawaii, Wyoming, Texas, California. Doesn't even matter if you're in Guam or Puerto Rico or even the Marshall Islands. We've researched and found grants in every state and territory in the country. Funding categories, what do they fund? Do they fund police projects or fire projects, community projects? Do they fund disaster preparedness, response, recovery, or relief? Whatever it is, funding categories, understanding what the grants are and what subcategory they are. And we'll go into why that's important in a little bit as well. Deadlines, when the grants are going to expire. Do they expire in November? Do they expire in August? Are they ongoing where they are available to apply for all year round? Descriptions, understanding what the grants are about, funding amounts available, how much is in the fund, links to the websites where you can find the grants. I'm going to teach you how to do all that today. We also sell that stuff, but the purpose is to make you better at playing this game. So I have end users that come to this class, learn how to do this, apply this, and are now getting funding for projects. Now, if you're a business on this call, because we do invite businesses to attend this as well, what we do is we custom build grant programs around your solutions. And it's designed to do 5 things. Get approvals to pursue a grant, identify the grants that are available around your product offering, locate points of contact that oversee these grants, build a successful justification paper to sell the project to get the funding, and then protect and secure the funding so it's not lost to another project. So we're going to teach you end users how to do all of this as well today. So let's start off with setting some definitions, because I never know if I have an audience of seasoned pros or first-time grant writers. So I always like to set the definition. So the first thing is, what is a grant? It's simply a sum of money given by an organization, especially a government, for a particular purpose. Then you have a grantor, which is the individual in charge of distributing that sum of money for a particular purpose. The grantee, the person or organization that receives the sum of money for a particular purpose. And then there's 3 types of grants. You have federal grants, private grants, which are corporations, foundations, and nonprofits, and state grants. It's typically a 2-step process to getting a grant. 1, you fill out an application. That requires you as an end user to know specific city, county, and state information. Secondly, you write a justification paper or a grant narrative or a grant justification narrative paper. They're all the same. They just have different ways of describing them, but we're going to teach you how to do that. And then sometimes the justification paper and the application are woven together, where you have an application with short answer. So you'll be filling out the application, then you'll be asked in 500 words or less, tell us about the project, or 500 words or less, tell us about the problem. So what's going on in the market that really makes it a need to understand how to play the grant game? So the first thing is I always, explain is, from what I see across the country, budgets are getting smaller and smaller. And through my research, it's usually the economy, real estate market, may it be business or private citizen real estate. The tax revenue's not there. Businesses, especially with COVID, haven't been able to run at full capacity, and a percentage of them have either shut down or they've worked at a lesser capacity, which means the taxes that they would generate for the city or the county aren't as large. I see in the marketplace elected officials very involved in the process of purchasing. They want to say on what goods and services agencies purchase. I also see that the more, the life-saving products and services for departments, they're not as considered high of a priority, not because of the value, but because of other needs. I always explain to businesses when I talk to them to educate them the more reasons an end user can take a product or a solution out of the box and use it, the odds go up it's going to get bought. If it's only used a handful of times a year, it's a tough sell, especially with a budget. The higher the cost of the product or service, the harder it is to get that product or service approval. So what do I mean there? So if you have a need and that one item is $100,000, ground robots is a good example. I worked on ground robots for 5 years of consulting work, almost 6. And they were anywhere from $50,000 to $150,000. And, so that was a tough sell because it was one product, but it was, 5 to 6 figures in cost. If it's, if you're buying 6 things for $50,000, it's a little easier. Because if you don't have 50 grand available, they can, cut a couple of those items off the list and still buy some things. If you got one item on the list, it's 50 grand or 100 grand or 150 grand, you cut that off the list and there's nothing left. So the higher the price, the harder it is to get that approval. So the end result is this. These products and services, they keep getting bumped from the budget each year. As end users on this meeting, you might be that person that has to gather information to put together the wish list, if you will, to submit to find out what will make the cut for the budget. I remember when I was new in the industry, I had agencies calling me up asking for 15, 20, 25 different things. And I was getting excited. I'm like, wow, this is great. They're going to buy all this stuff. They called me back and they're like, yeah, those 25 things, I only got approved to buy 3. So what we want to do is this, local agencies nowadays must be prepared more than ever. With COVID, the fact that our society was shut down last year for most of that year, if you'd asked us at the beginning of the year in January, is the whole country going to get shut down, let alone the whole world due to a pandemic, we'd have said no way. Then you had what happened with George Floyd and all the civil demonstrations, the protests, the riots. It was a rough year. But to attain high level of protection for your community, may you be fire, police, emergency management, budgets need enhancement more than ever now through grant funding. So if you're on this call and you're a business, why does the opportunity take so long to close? I'll talk to companies. I was just at the FDIC. I was telling Mark that when I was at the fire show, I was talking to businesses. They're like, I don't understand why it takes so long to purchase something sometimes. Well, we went through this. I said, well, it's a long process. If you're a business, you're generating a lead either through your website or a marketing campaign or a cold call or a trade show that you're at or an inbound call. The conversation with the end user, then you send that end user product information. Nowadays, at least you can send a PDF or give them a link to your website that they can log in. You do a demo, either over Zoom or face-to-face, a formal quote if it's of the product or services of value, and then that end user has to submit the project to elected officials for approval. And then from there, if they get the approval, then they can move forward on an application and a justification paper, submit the grant, and ultimately get awarded the funding. But that process could take anywhere from 12 to 24 months. And so what we want to do is establish a way to speed up that process. So if I can help you, an end user, instead of having to take a year to 2 years to get a project funded and be able to buy it, and shorten that down to, let's say, 90 to 180 days, I'm sure that'd be interest of you. So we're going to show you how to do that. And this is the first step. The first step to the grant funding assistance strategy is how to sell projects and get approvals. So the first thing we have to do is we have to get clear on who's going to approve a project. Is it the agency leadership? Is it a city council or a county board? Is it a regional project that has a regional board involved? Or is it the state? Is it a statewide project where state administrators are going to approve it? We need to get it clear. Who are the players on the chessboard that are going to help me get that checkmate and get the solution I want? The second thing we have to do is understand why the approvals are needed. In very simple terms, public safety personnel salaries are paid by the taxpayer. So you're seeing more and more elected officials want the say on what happens in their community and what these public safety agencies buy. I'll give you an example. I read a story a few weeks ago in Pittsburgh, and the special operations section was going in front of city council to get approval to purchase a throwbot, which, if you're not familiar with that, it's a throwable robot. Looks like a dumbbell. You throw it into a room or a structure or a building, and it has eyes and ears. And it is designed to look around the room and determine if it's safe to enter. So you can clear the building as you go in. And the city council member wasn't familiar with a throwbot, and their concern was this was going to be used against demonstrators. And if you understand what a throwbot is, you know it's not going to be used in that environment. It's not going to provide any value because you could see everything going on with demonstrators. And a throwbot's not going to give you any more vantage point than you already have. But the reality was that's the level of curiosity, we'll call it, or interest or wanting to be involved that your local government officials that are elected are having. So understanding that helps you put together your chessboard of who's going to play this game, because we want to win the game. So how do you help sell a project? You know, and this is what you do to get approvals. You as an end user must show how a project can be realistically funded through a grant, federal, private, or state. One way to do this is use the Authorized Equipment List, or the AEL. The AEL was started after the Oklahoma City bombing. Some of you might be familiar with it. If you Google Authorized Equipment List, you'll go right to FEMA's page where it's located. And what it does is it basically has about 750 products, and it connects them to different product categories, and it connects them to different federal DHS funded grants. And that information can be used to sell elected officials, because if FEMA recognizes that solution as a needed solution and recognizes that it's connected to federal grants, then you're going to get that blessing. You're not going on a wild goose chase. So you're going to want to leverage that. Another way you can get a project approved is show how the project's going to do one or more of the following. How is this project going to save time? How is it going to save lives? How is it going to save money? How is it going to reduce liability? That information can easily be obtained through the supplier of the solution. So if you're working with a distributor or a manufacturer, ask them point blank to get you information about how their product or their software or their thermal or their hazmat device or whatever it is that's going to go on your drone, how is it going to save us time, save us money, reduce liability, and save lives? And that information you can leverage to get the project approved by city council members, county board members, regional board, state administrators, or if you need to sell it to your agency leadership, may it be your chief, your deputy chief, your chief deputy, your battalion chief, your captains, commanders, lieutenants, whoever they are. Now, I touched on the AEL. Let me go into a little more details about it. So in very specific terms, it's a list of approved equipment types that are allowed under FEMA's preparedness grant programs. The audience is emergency managers, first responders, Homeland Security professionals. And the way it works is this. I want you to imagine 21 file cabinets in a row. And if you were to open up one of those file cabinet drawers, what would you see inside? You would see typically hanging files. They're green or blue usually. Inside those hanging files, you probably would see manila envelopes or manila folders. Inside those manila folders, you'll see paper. That really is what the AEL is. So the AEL is 21 equipment categories, which would be the file cabinets. Then they're divided into lesser categories, which would be your hanging files. Then they're divided into subcategories, which would be the manila folders. And then it would be divided into individual equipment items, which are the pieces of paper. Now, keep in mind, there's no commercially available products listed. You're not going to see FLIR. You're not going to see iRobot. You're not going to see, DGI. You're going to see drone. You're going to see light amplification equipment. You're going to see things like that. Now, the two AEL categories that are important to you folks on this call are the two I've listed below. So this would be one of the screens that typically a lot of people like to capture with either their camera or they'll do a screen save. The first one is 0303-07-SUAS. Stands for Small Unmanned Aircraft System. Then you have 0303-07-UPGD, which is robot or remotely piloted vehicle upgrades. So either if you want a drone, it's the first one. If you want the upgrades, may it be hardware or software, that would be the second one listed. But those will connect you to specific DHS federal grants. So now let's dive into the federal grants. These are right now probably the most popular federal grants that I see for public safety. You have the American Rescue Plan, or the ARP program. That is by far the biggest federal program ever assembled, $350 billion of money. As long as you can show how your project will either help with future outbreaks from COVID or future pandemics, it's a fit. So if you're using it to check temperature of people, you can, if you have a drone with a thermal cam, if you can show how having a drone with a thermal cam is going to help determine if people potentially need to be tested for COVID to keep them more quarantined, it's a fit for the ARP program. Just an example. Then you have the Afg Grant. So the organizations that I have on this call that are with fire agencies. The Afg program, great fit for accessories or for drones. Then you have the Afg supplemental program for COVID, again, connecting it to COVID. Then you have the Community Development Block Grant Program. I see this program used a lot of time for purchasing equipment. It could be as much as your rigs. It could be your vehicles for patrol. It could be for lots of items. But it's a federal program that is all about developing the community. If you can show how your agency is optimized by improving or establishing a drone program and how the community is going to be better off, then it's a fit for that program. Then you have the Community Facilities Direct Loan and Grant Program. I see agencies getting equipment through that program as well. The CARES Act, again, you got to connect your program to COVID for any CARES Act money. Then probably one of the most popular ones is the Homeland Security Grant Program, which is you're broken into three different subcategories. Your State Homeland Security Program, which is for any city or county that's not considered a UASI city, which I believe there's about 25 cities and regions of the US that are considered UASI, which is the Urban Area Security Initiative. So if you're a municipality, you're either falling under UASI or State Homeland. There's roughly close to $1 billion of money just in those two programs alone. Then you have Operation Stone Garden. So if you can show how your drone program is going to help with drug interdiction, and you're in a border state where you're bordering either Mexico, Canada, or an ocean, you're a fit for that grant as well. If you're going to use your drone program to secure your ports and harbors, then you can apply for port security grant money or the Port Security Grant Program. That's about $90 billion or million dollars. I'm sorry, 90 million with an M. If you're a volunteer fire department, you can apply for the Volunteer Fire Assistant Grant Program. So for volunteer agencies, you can get a drone program through that grant as well. Now, private grants, to me, these are my favorite. You know, state grants, I'm sorry, federal grants, they're good, but they take a long time, 12 to 24 months on average. Your private grant's going to take you 90 to 180 days. So let's talk a little bit about private grants for public safety. The most popular one is the Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation grant. Now, right now, they're not doing drones, but they will do accessories and software for the drone. So if you have a drone program and you have drones in place, you can apply for thermal cams. You could apply for night vision. You could apply for software upgrades to your systems. Gary Sinise Foundation, otherwise known as Lieutenant Dan from Forrest Gump. He funds projects for public safety. He's funded projects up to the six-figure amount. Going back to Firehouse Subs, this year alone, Firehouse Subs will be awarding 400 grants to agencies throughout the country, capping each grant at about $25,000. So that's $10 million of funding through Firehouse Subs. The Gary Sinise Foundation, they don't have a cap. So I've seen them fund projects in the six-figure range, but usually it's a five-figure grant. The Georgia Pacific Bucket Brigade Grant Program. That's another one that will fund projects for fire service agencies. A new one's Mission Barbecue. If you have a Mission Barbecue restaurant in your community, they will fund projects for your public safety agencies. And they're very aggressive about it. So if you have one, reach out to them and they will fund projects like this. Then you have community grants. Some examples of community grants would be a community development grant or a community enhancement grant or a community improvement grant. Chevron, the oil and gas company, they fund grants that improve, enhance, or develop a community. City Foundation, otherwise known as Citibank, they also do that. Enterprise Holdings, Enterprise Rent-A-Car, they have a community grant as well. And it's just simple as this. If you can connect your drone program or upgrading your drone program to how it's going to optimize your public safety's capabilities, it's a fit for a community grant. Think of community grants as funnels. It's a big funnel. Lots of stuff can go into a community grant, whereas a public safety grant, the funnel is much more narrow. But if you connect it to how your agency is going to enhance or develop the community by optimizing its capabilities, it's an absolute fit. Disaster may be preparedness, recovery, response, or relief. Some companies that you'll know of, Allstate Foundation, Allstate Insurance, they will fund projects that help with disasters. Amazon.com has a contribution program. They've made a lot of money over the last year. They are giving back to public safety. Cooper Tires, some of your vehicles might have Cooper Tires on them. They have a foundation for disaster as well. Dow Chemical, they also do. Those are some examples. In fact, when it comes to private grants, I recommend you do your homework and research your local banks in your community, energy companies, including gas stations. So if you have a Shell or a Citgo or a BP, research them. If they're in your community, there's a good chance they will fund projects to enhance, develop, or improve, or prepare for a disaster in your community. Insurance companies, your State Farms, your American Families, your Allstates. You have local branches. Look into them as well. Manufacturing, who's in your community? So like example, if you're in Texas, you have a lot of petrochemical and refineries, as well as in Louisiana, specifically like the Lake Charles area. If you're in New Jersey, you have a lot of pharmaceutical manufacturing. If you're in the Midwest, you might have manufacturing of livestock or food processing. Who's ever doing business in your city or in your county, look into their companies. They all have programs where they set aside money and donate to causes or to things that they consider important. Leverage the fact that if they're working in your community, they're going to want you to be able to optimize your public safety capabilities. Public safety foundations, there's quite a few of these nationwide. I think there needs to be more, There's a few hundred of these. So if you have a foundation connected to your municipality, leverage it. You know, San Diego is a good example. San Diego Police Department has a foundation. They bought a robot that I sold years ago for their SWAT team. Leverage it. If you are an end user and you have a municipality that doesn't have a 501c3 public safety foundation, look into establishing it. Find some people that would be willing to oversee it. Get those foundations started out, because they're going to raise money within your community. Your community companies and individuals can donate money to that foundation. Then the foundation can go out and buy whatever it is and give it to you. Or that foundation can write you a check and then you can go get it. It reduces the amount of time it takes to get a purchase exponentially. Railroads. If you have a railroad that goes through your community, whatever railroad cars go through, wherever railroad companies go through, they are really big at funding projects for public safety. Because if you're better at your job because you have better equipment or better software or better training, they benefit because they're considered a soft target. So are the manufacturing companies. Then you have regional community foundations, which to me are my favorite. You know, there's over 700 of these nationwide. And the way they work is they're based on either population in urban areas, or maybe they are based on population of a region of a state. I'll give you two examples. I recently did business with the San Diego Community Foundation. And what they do is they raise money with the citizens and businesses in San Diego County. So either if you're in San Diego City proper or in those surrounding cities, the county takes and will take donations from businesses and individuals. And then they reinvest that money and grow a fund. The San Diego County Community Foundation is worth almost $1 billion. They will fund projects to enhance, improve, or develop the community. Again, showing how your drone program enhances your public safety capabilities, improves the community. Let's say you're in a more rural area. Good. I just did business with the Southeastern Missouri Foundation, Community Foundation. They're about, I want to say 10 counties. And within those 10 counties, the individuals that live in those counties and the businesses donate money to the community foundation. They reinvest the money, they raise a fund, they grow the fund. Even that fund is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Bottom line is this: there is over $500 billion of community foundation money. And it's much easier to get than a federal grant. The grant application shorter, the process is much more refined, and it's easier to get the money quicker. So I recommend you look into those. Then you have state grants. The Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant, or the JAG grant, or the Byrne grant. It's a grant based on population and crime rate of a community. They get money and then they can spend it on almost anything they want. It's a very liberal program in terms of what you want to buy. It's not as detailed as some other grants that I work on with the states or the feds. So if you're an agency that has needs for drones, or you want to add accessories, you can use that Byrne grant if you're a public safety agency that does law enforcement work. Sometimes the state will run a program for upgrades or for products that could go on a drone. So you want to keep in the loop with any state JAG programs that they have. If you're a rural fire department, and that is, if you're a fire department, your community is 10,000 people or less, they will fund projects through the Rural Community Fire Protection Grant Program. So if you're a rural community, you can get money for a drone as well. The problem isn't the money out there. The problem is really knowing where the money's at. And that's one of the things that we do for companies and we do for individuals, but we can also teach you how to do that. I have a more extensive course that I teach at the end of every month. So I'm going to be teaching it next Friday. So if you like what you're learning here and you want to take a deeper dive, it's a free course. You can sign up for that as well. So now let's talk about the points of contact that oversee the grants. The first thing I want you to get clear on is every grant has a point of contact that oversees it. So the point of contact has 3 jobs: answer any questions about the process, review and approve the application and the justification paper, and then get the check cut for approval. So why is this person important? Why do I want to know who the point of contact is that oversees the grant? The first thing you have to understand is they are responsible for spending the money. If there's a POC in charge of a grant, their job is to give the money away. The only rule they have is they have to give it away to a sound and viable project. They understand the mission. They understand the mission of the grantor or the organization they work for, and they understand the grant that they're in charge of. And their job is to help you, an end user, answer your questions. So building a rapport with them is essential because they're there to make sure you're successful at applying for the funding. So if you're an end user, you want to reach out to this point of contact and build rapport with them. Because if they have rapport with you and they understand the project through your own eyes and your own voice, the odds of them funding that project go up. So you're going to want to ask them questions. You want to take notes. You're going to want to share with them what you learn. And the main question is, what do we need to do to be successful to get a grant? What do you need to know from us? And they'll tell you the recipe. So the fourth thing is a grant justification paper. So what are the components and how do you build one? You know, there's a lot of grant classes that focus just on this alone. I think it's important, but I think it's a piece of the puzzle. And I think if you don't know the whole puzzle, that piece isn't going to do you any good. But here's what I can tell you about a justification paper in a 10,000-foot view. What it is, it's an affirmative case that addresses the problem you currently have and then shows how the project's going to solve the problem. That's as simple as that. And there's always the following components. 1, identifying the problem. What's going on in your community that requires you to ask for funding? 2, quantifying it. How big of a problem is it? What soft targets do you have? What issues do you have? How big's your population? How big's your population during the work week? How many square miles is your community? What's the terrain like? Is it hilly? Is it flat? Do you have rivers, streams, lakes, creeks, oceans? Do you have, what types of businesses do you have in your community? Do you have distribution where there's certain, materials on hand? Do you have manufacturing? What kind of manufacturing? What kind of chemicals and supplies are on the manufacturing plant? Do you have airports? Do you have a water treatment facility? What kind of highways do you have in your community? Do you have state routes, interstates? Do you have county roads? Who drives on these roads? What kind of vehicles go on these roads? What kind of crime rates do you have? What kind of traffic stops do you have? What kind of call outs do you have if it's a fire service or EMS? Show how big the problem is with data. The more data, the bigger the problem. Then from there, show how the project's going to save time, save money, reduce liability, and save lives. Go into detail. How's that project going to add value to the community? 12-month implementation from the time you buy it to the time you get it delivered, to the time you get trained, to the time you let the media, either the local media on TV or the radio or the newspapers or print or digital. We got this, we had this problem. We applied for this grant. We were awarded this much money. We bought this solution. Notify your community. Tell your Chamber of Commerce. Tell your local churches. Talk up the project. Let the community know what you did and how you did it and why you did it and the value it's going to add to your community. And then the cost to the dollar amount from the quote you receive. This is how much you needed. This is how much you're going to get. You don't ballpark that quote. That quote's got to be to the dollar amount. It's got to be to the penny. Can't be ballparked. So the last part is securing and protecting funding. So why is this important? Why do you have to be worried about securing and protecting money? The first thing is this. one of the things I learned first and foremost in this business was money can fall into an end user's lap. Money could be taken away from an end user. It's just as quick. Realize this, understand and appreciate the world. There's multiple parts of an agency that has projects that need to be funded. The end user is in charge of the projects, and they're going to do what it takes to get the funding. You know, some of you might have projects on your plate right now. They're on this call. You're going to do what it takes to get money. You're going to look into certain things. You're going to look for that money. And if it drops in your lap, you're going to be excited. Or maybe you've got leverage with leadership. You could talk them into moving money from one project to yours. You know, maybe an incident happened that if your drone program was up and running, it would have provided tremendous value. A lot of times money gets moved because of an incident. So understanding why funding's lost, though, is money is either not spent quick enough. There's times where I've seen grants expire, and when they expire, they're taken from the end user that was awarded the money. It doesn't disappear. It usually goes to the state, and then anyone can go after that money. So you always want to keep in contact with the state and find out there's money available. Sometimes someone else at the agency is more persuasive. Like I gave you the example before. If your project would have solved a problem that recently happened, a lot of times money gets moved to your project because it's a knee-jerk type of situation. Well, if this is up and running, we can avoid that problem in the future. You know, or maybe you're the end user that didn't have enough leverage. You know, you did everything you could to keep the money, but someone else at the department was more persuasive and you lost it. My goal for you folks is to reduce the chance of happening. I want to make it so where you're able to get money and keep it, or find money and get it, but I want to make sure you don't lose it. So what do? These are tips. These are not silver bullets. They're not going to work every time, but these are strategies. If you apply them enough, the odds will be in your favor and you're going to succeed more often than not. So the first thing you want to do is build a team that supports the project. So you want not only a team within the division that you work, but see if you can get some adjacent divisions involved. Drones are great because drones could be used for special ops. They could be used for traffic. They could be used for investigations. There's a lot of ways drones can be used. Hazmat, search and rescue. So there's a lot of agencies that have teams within them that would value having a drone program or have a drone program with some additional capabilities. So then from there, you got to get leadership on board. You got to get your chief, your deputy chief, your chief deputy, your battalion chief, your captains and your commanders and your lieutenants. Get them on board. Talk to them about the project. Get them involved early so they're not someone that's going to fight you on the project. They're going to support you. Elected officials. I see a lot of agencies wait till the last minute to get in front of city councils and county boards and present projects to them. Get them out earlier. Invite them out to your agency, maybe on the demo day. Say, hey, listen, hey, Jim, I know you're on the board and I know you got things going on, but if you're available, we got an agency coming out to help us enhance our drone program, and it's going to give us better capabilities for search and rescue. We'd love to get your support. Do you have time to come out and see it in action and learn about it? So that way, if you bring elected officials to your agency beforehand, when you have to go in front of the city council or county board, it's kind of like playing a home game. You've got the hometown crowd in front of you that's behind you, that's supporting you. Get local businesses behind the project. I was working on a project with the Oakland Police Department recently. And the Oakland Police Department lieutenant was talking up the project to local businesses, because there's two things he could do. The local businesses can support the project if they think it's going to help keep them safer. So they'll talk to city council on their behalf. They'll call up city council and say, hey, my local alderman or my local representative, we're working on a project here that the police department has is going to keep my area safer, and I really would like your support on this. The second thing they might do is they might write you a check. When I was working with Oakland, 80% of the money was already secured through just talking up the project to the local businesses, because they said to themselves, we like to donate money. We like to donate a percentage of our revenue. Why not donate it to this project to help keep us safer? Then from there, community leaders, get your city, get your Chamber of Commerce, your local pastors and priests on board. Get the citizens on board. We all live in neighborhoods. We all live in houses or townhomes or condos or apartments. We have neighbors. Tell them what you're looking to do, why you're looking to do it. Have them reach out to city council or the county board. And how do you sway their hearts and minds? Show how the project is going to save time, save money, reduce liability, or save lives. We also have justification information. Maybe there's NIMS requirements that require you to have a drone program for your search and rescue or your hazmat. Or maybe there's certain items that could go on your drone that are a must for your team according to the National Incident Management System. Leverage certifications if possible. If there's NIOSH or NFPA or NIJ certifications, whatever it is, try to leverage as much as you can to support why you need this project funded and why you need the support of that team you're building. So in terms of grant assistance, a lot of times I have end users that on these calls afterwards, they'll ask me, if we wanted to work with you, Michael, what can you do for us and what can't you do? Or if you're working with a company, what can they do and what can't they do to help you with a grant? Well, what we can do is we build out templates and outlines that are designed to be used as a guide and inspiration for an end user. So when a business hires us, we learn about the products or the training or the software, and we build out these templates and outlines that they can give out to you, an end user, so you can use them as a guide and inspiration to write your justification papers. Then we can review the justification paper and make suggestions. We can review your application and make suggestions to increase the success rate. So if you're working on a grant, I recommend you have other people look at it and get their advice on how to make it stronger. I always say get a team of 3. So you want 3 people to look at your application, look at your justification paper and say, this looks strong enough to submit. This does not look strong enough to submit. So that way you can make sure that your odds go up. Now, if you hire, if you're working with a manufacturer or a distributor or a company like mine, what we can't do is write it for you. We can give you examples and samples of what to say and how to say it, but we can't write it on your behalf. We can't fill out your application either. You as an end user, if you want to hire a grant writer, and there are some you could hire through Mark's organization that he partners with, they can write it for you because you're hiring them directly. But the reality is this: if a business or a firm like mine is working with you, we can't do it. The federal government is really cracked down on that. They consider that collusion. So keep that in mind. With that being said, I want to open up to questions. I went a little longer than I normally do, so I'm happy to stay past 3 o'clock if there's more questions. But I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can read the questions and see what we can do to help you out here. Public education is so important for, yes, exactly. As end users, one of the things I always recommend is understand and appreciate the world of the people that have to approve projects. If you would have told me 20 years ago, especially when I first got in this business, that civilians like myself would be telling you what you're going to use and not use on your day-to-day operations and missions, I would have said that's crazy because we don't know your job. What we do know, though, is if we understand what you're going through, the odds go up that we'll be better to help you. So keep that in mind when you're working with city council and county boards. Bring them in, make them part of the team, and bring them in early. If you know you're going to have to sell them on a project, bring them in and have them on your side. We have a small enough room. If anyone has any questions, you're more than welcome to even unmute yourself and ask. Okay, and if you don't, that's okay. I'd like to end it on this. If you're looking for any type of information on grants, and you have questions, reach out to me. You know, my contact information, I'll share my screen again, is right here. You can call me or at 630-945-3605. You can call me directly on my mobile at 630-877-3130. You can email me at masimor, that's ASIMOR, at dynamic-international.net. And if you're interested in getting specific information on drone programs, we have that information. We have over 1,600 grants that we've identified and researched. And we, you know, break it down by state. Even a state like Wyoming has over 100 grants, whereas a state like California has close to 300. So
somebody, Michael, would like to see
slide 3. Let me get over there. Good. Let's. This is slide 3? Was that the slide you were referring to?
You can unmute if you'd like.
Yeah, if you're gonna, yeah, please do.
Yes, my contact information's in the chat. Just send us an email and we'll be sure to get you a copy of this.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, no problem.
Yep, the recording, yeah, we did record this, and it'll be available for you again. And if you have questions, reach out to Mark. If there's anything we can do as a company, I'd like you to go through Mark, because we donate any business we do with public safety back through to Mark's organization, because we really appreciate and like what Mark's doing, and we feel he's adding tremendous value to the public safety market.
Thank you.
So whatever we can do to support him, we want to.
Yeah, you brought up a good point about people wanting to get a 501c3 going because there might be different options available. So there's a opportunity out there called a fiscal sponsor, and it allows you not to have to go through the IRS paperwork like we had to. And our company's very open, our foundation's very open to supporting organizations that want to come under our umbrella, our wings, if you will. And we'll be a fiscal sponsor provided we can come to a proper agreement on how that's managed. And we'll be more than happy to help you with that. If that's of interest to anybody, they can reach out to me directly. Yeah,
I highly recommend, if you can, start your own police foundation or fire foundation.
Yeah.
It goes a long way. It makes it a lot easier for businesses to donate. Mm-hmm. And then you can buy the equipment and hand it over immediately. It avoids a lot of that city council and county board voting, because sometimes they'll vote up to 7 times, which is 7 months. They don't meet every day.
Right.
And because of that, it slows the process down.
Well, once again, Michael, excellent job with your presentation. I, again, picked up some points I didn't pick up the last 2 or 3 times, and really appreciate you taking your time. And I can't thank all the people that, came in and listened to this presentation. We're having this monthly, so if you'd like to rejoin us next month, or you know somebody who's interested, please let us know. Get us their email. We'll put them on a list, and we'll get them the invite so that we can help educate people as to where this money is, how to get the money, and just how we can get these tools in the hands to help you keep you all safe, and of course help the communities that you serve. Can't thank you enough for your service. Thank you.
Absolutely. We really appreciate all you do. And, like I said, if you want to take a deeper dive, next Friday, I do another free class that I do as well that dives in a little bit deeper than this. But whatever we can do to help and support you with any questions, reach out to Mark and or me, and we'll be happy to help and serve and give back.
Okay, I got to provide my contact info again here. I'm not sure if they're asking for mine, but I'll put it back in the chat again.
Yep.
Going to copy and paste it here. Okay, that should be it. You got my direct phone number, info@NPS-DDP.org.
And there's me if you need to get a hold of me in any way.
There you go. Excellent. So we'll be sending out a copy of this. Just send us an email with the request in the subject line or the body of the email. We'll be sure to get your copy. Thank you all again for your service, your time, and dedication, and we look forward to supporting you.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And we'll stay on if anyone has any questions, but if not, have a great day and stay safe.
Thank you, Michael.
Hey, Michael and Mark.
Yes.
Hey, Renee.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, Renee.
So Sharon introduced us via email, right?
Yeah.
And you were on your way to the FDIC conference. So I finally did it, and I am in the grant writing business for the UAS community. So I just want to thank you, Mark, for inviting me to this. Michael, phenomenal. I'm following you. Really great advice. So I just want to say thanks, guys.
Yeah, our pleasure. Our pleasure. Happy to serve.
Right.
Renee, I'd love to have a chat with you later on how we can work together and
yes,
help more public safety agencies get the tools they need to stay safe.
Oh, we must. So I'll reach out to you so we can schedule a little time together.
All right. I'm going to a blues festival down in San Diego for a couple of days. So actually, it's a bluegrass festival. So
oh, wow.
taking
Nice.
a little vacation time. Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah. Well, we'll talk when you get back and you get settled.
Well, you shoot me an email and we'll set that up. Thank you
Perfect.
very much. All right. Thank you again, Michael.
No, my pleasure. My pleasure. Happy to help.
Bye-bye.
Okay, I'll shut this down then. Y'all have a great afternoon. Appreciate your time. Take care and please stay safe.